What's up, guys? It's me, Jeremy, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys another mid to late game commentary. So we start off about 22 minutes into the game, and if you look at the kills as well as the towers, this game is ridiculously close. And so on our team, Jarvan has the majority of the gold, and on the opponent's team, the Corki has the majority of the gold. So we see Corki by himself here, so we actually try to make a play on the Corki, but of course he has his Valkyrie to get away. No big deal. Although he was potentially out of position, we don't really commit very hard to it, so whatever. Anyways, we're just kind of not doing much, trying to prepare and set up for hopefully team fight. We see Corki a little bit out of position here. Jarvan goes in for the initiation, gets a solid knockup. Very good ultimate, but Lee Sin gets a very good kick. I try to go in, kill the Corki, and I turn to Lee Sin, but then actually the rest of the opponent's team comes in, especially with the Lulu's teleport. So now we're just thinking, oh my god, that was a really bad fight, because you notice our Tristana, our Warwick aren't here, and we initiated without them. 3 into what we thought was a 3 versus 3, but it ended up being a 3 versus 5. So we end up dying. That's really bad for us at this point, actually, because Tristana split push doesn't get us anything. And I personally voiced my concern to the team later on that it's not really something we should be doing. Like our team comp, if we take a look at our team comp, we got Kayle, Warwick, Tristana, Jarvan, Leona. Our team fight is very, very solid. And so the opponents are able to take down our mid tower. So overall, that previous fight was really, really bad. We tunnel visioned on the Corki really hard because we know that he has the majority of the gold on the opponent's team, and he's like such a strong threat. And he was out of position since we were able to kill him. But the opponent's team followed up so hard on our initiation, which was not really something we expected, and very poor teamwork and coordination by us, because we had 2 players not at the fight, whereas the opponent's teamwork was very, very solid, and they ended up coming out on top in that fight because of that teleport, as well as Cho'Gath walking in. And if we actually looked at that, Kayle died before she even got her ultimate off too, so they just destroyed us after we killed Corki. And so now we're trying to like just set up for another team fight. Like even though we know we lost that fight, like we're just thinking, oh, the only reason why we lost that fight was because it was 3v5, right? So it's like reasonable to still assume that we can win a team fight because they only got 1 tower off of that team fight and possibly a dragon. But we're still fairly confident in our abilities since overall our communication throughout the game as well as morale has stayed fairly high. Like there hasn't really been any raging or negative attitudes or anything like that. And so even though we did lose the fight, now we see Lee Sin and Cho'Gath are trying to close in on Tristana, but since we have players mid lane, we're actually trying to look for a collapse here. But the other players see it coming, the opponents see it coming, so obviously they just back off. And even though Lee Sin gets a little bit close here, we still have pretty much no chance of getting in range. And since Jarvan, if he initiated onto Lee Sin there, that'd be really bad. Like he would just dive in so hard, and the rest of the team wouldn't be able to follow up, as well as we see Kayle top, so we're just going to try to disengage this fight. It could be a potentially very poor fight. So we really cannot fight without Kayle, as well as we just need all 5 players. And so we disengage that fight. And you know, when it comes to disengaging fights, you really have to like see the fight before it happens. And so that's what we were able to do there. And then of course, since Kayle's top, we know that we can't fight that. So we just back off immediately without even trying to poke or anything like that. Because when you try to poke, like you're putting yourself in range to be initiated on, which is really, really poor and could potentially cost your ability to disengage fights. So we're still thinking we just need a group. We got to get that teamwork going because right now, so far, the opponents have outplayed us in terms of teamwork. And so that's what we're trying to focus on. You can see myself as well as Warwick. We're just trying to get the team together. And so now we're starting to finally mesh together. Our lanes are fairly pushed out. We think about trying to gank the Corki, but what we actually decided to do instead was rotate mid because we have a very significant creep wave mid. So our team rotates mid. Tristana and Kayle kind of go a little bit ahead, but they were able to get the tower. Tristana takes some poke. Kayle's actually a little bit overextended here, so Cho'Gath flashes in, and he tries to get a rupture. Very good rupture, but Kayle's able to flash out. Jarvan goes for a re-engage. I get my ult in to help Jarvan's dive. We kite for Cho'Gath, which works out really well. Jarvan sacrifices his life to get an amazing ultimate to knock up the enemy players, and we clean up, and that is an amazing fight for us. So because we see Corki bot, we're able to make that rotation mid, which ends up in us having the 4v5 fight. So now we outplayed the opponents in terms of teamwork, as well as Jarvan's re-engages were really, really solid. And so now we're just pushing here, of course, because you always want to try to capitalize objectively on fights you win, especially since we were able to win so significantly with so many players still having pretty much full health at the end of the fight. So we get the kill on Lee Sin. That's not really significant because we know we would still get the inhibitor anyways, regardless of killing the Lee Sin. But that last fight overall, really, really solid. Put us in a very, very good spot now because we have an inhibitor, which is absolutely huge. Like in a close game, the first team that takes an inhibitor is really in a really good spot. And so that last fight worked out really well. Kayle was able to bait the opponents into overextending by flashing the Cho'Gath's Rupture, despite her being overextended initially. So she turned her bad situation of potentially getting caught into a very solid team fight for us. So a very solid play by Kayle, great initiation by Jarvan, and of course great kiting on the Cho'Gath by the rest of our team. And so we're just going to back up and pretty much reap the spoils, buy all that good stuff. Prepare for Baron, of course, because potentially a counter Baron from the opponent's team, since we all back at the same time, a counter Baron is possible. But it's not really that likely, since we do see, of course, Lulu top, Corki mid, pushing lanes, and we did get the wards on Baron. So you always want to try to ward before you back as a support, since when you back, you get more wards, right? So why don't you just use the wards that you have in your inventory before you back if you can? And so that's what I did there. I was able to get the wards onto Baron, which were actually very important. It prevented a counter Baron from the opponents pretty much. And so we know after that last fight that we're pretty strong now. And after winning that last fight, we're very confident in our abilities. And so we're trying to group. We are about to group mid, but then Warwick actually points out something really good here. No objectives mid. That is a very, very good point for him to bring up, and it's very solid. There's no objectives mid, so why would we push mid? There's absolutely no point. I mean, we are looking for a fight, but fighting over nothing is really, really bad. You always want to try to fight in a situation where if you win the fight, you can go and take an objective, because otherwise the fight actually doesn't get you that much. And so we have 2 players pushing top, and we don't want the rest of our team to show top. When you have your whole team show top, it's not that good, because everyone just shows top. And so we ward our entrance. We see Corki and Lulu coming in, and we get a very nice catch onto them. Jarvan goes in, flashes after the Corki. There you go. That's 2 kills. And so because we didn't show top, that creates so much pressure in the surrounding jungle area. And Corki and Lulu did not respect that pressure. And so we were able to get that easy gang onto them. And now we get a pretty easy siege, since if you take a look, every single player on our team is full HP. And the opponents, both of their damage dealers were killed. Corki and Lulu. So Cho'Gath, Lee Sin, they're not going to kill us. We know they're not going to kill us, so we can just easily siege the tower. And then after the tower's down, we dive, because they didn't back off. They didn't respect our pressure. And so we just keep going. I flash after the Sona, because I know she's going to die in like 1 hit, and I'm able to walk it off. We get the second inhibitor of the game, and at this point, Lee Sin is pretty much the only one alive, because the rest of the team backed. And Lulu comes in after respawning, but once again, she's still squishy. We kill the Nexus turret, and eventually we push for game. And so that jungle play earlier was really, really solid in terms of putting us in a good situation. And overall, that first fight, transitioning into later on, as well as our very solid siege, eventually transitioned into us winning this game from coming from behind pretty much. Anyways, that was it for this commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really like these kind of like short commentaries where I only go over like part of the game instead of like the whole full game, because I kind of find the whole full game is like there's very significant portions of the game where nothing really happens, and when you make a full game commentary, those parts end up being like really difficult to commentate, or at least, you know, kind of boring to watch. And so I don't really like that aspect of commentating. Anyways, this commentary was hopefully awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.